Chapter 14, Nemesis. Wow, that's one brave mermaid, said Carlos, when Mal was done sharing Arabella's story with him, Evie, and Jay, after they'd pulled Jay away from roar practice. They were sitting at a table in the refectory at Jay's insistence, since he didn't like to hear bad news on an empty stomach. I would never even dream of touching my mom's furs. And she goes and steals King Triton's Triton? That's insane. Jay nodded, his mouth full of food. He swallowed loudly to the consternation of the girls. I don't mean to be rude, but why is this our problem exactly? He asked. Arabella's a friend, and she came to us, said Mal defensively. She didn't know who else to ask for help. Uh-huh, said Jay. Because she did something naughty, and we're from the Isle of the Lost. But the thing is, we have stuff to do in Ordon now. Carlos slowly nodded his head. Jay has a point. You have a packed royal schedule, Mal. You don't really have time for something like this. Why does it have to be you? Us? Who have to look for this thing? We didn't steal it. Plus, don't forget, exams are coming up. And what about Ben? Doesn't this fall under his responsibility? Asked Jay. Ben's in Northern Way, negotiating some kind of truce between the Imperial City and Agrabah, said Mal. I don't want to bother him with this. The boys still looked a little wary. Mal put her hands on her hips and scowled. Okay, this is not the team that returned to the Isle of the Lost and defeated their evil talismans. I'll tell you why it's our problem. Because when a friend's in trouble, what do? She asked fiercely. We leave them alone? Choked Jay. He sighed. All right. Come on, you guys. We all know what it feels like to have done something wrong, Evie beseeched, and to feel scared and alone afterward. Of course we'll help, said Carlos. Yeah, we were just playing. What do you call it? Devil's advocate, said Jay with a smile. But it seems like the best thing to do is to tell Fairy Godmother so she can alert King Triton, said Carlos. I mean, right? But Arabella asked us to keep it secret, said Evie. We can handle this ourselves, said Mal. Let's not bring Fairy Godmother into it. Mal didn't want to sit around waiting to have tea with the goddesses from Mount Olympus or laughing at the Sultan of Agrabah's corny jokes again, which took up a lot of her time now that she was the king's girlfriend. She itched to do something meaningful, to be useful instead of simply decorative. Are you guys with me? She asked. One by one, each of them nodded. Mal smiled, relieved. Obviously, first things first, we need to figure out where the Triton is, she asked briskly. Any ideas? That's what this is for, said Evie, removing the magic mirror from her purse. She flipped it open and spoke directly into its reflection. Magic mirror of seas and skies, show me where the Triton lies. The mirror turned cloudy and gray, and nothing happened. Is it broken again? Asked Carlos. Evie shook her head. It was never broken. It just didn't work in the catacombs. Evie gave it another good shake, and the mirror showed the Triton stuck between two rocks under the sea. Where is that? Asked Mal, squinting at the screen. I wish your magic mirror could talk, Evie. It's only the last shard of the mirror. No audio function. Sorry, said Evie apologetically. Looks like it's somewhere near the barrier. See that shimmering line? That's the invisible dome, said Carlos, looking over Evie's shoulder. Which means anyone on the Isle of the Lost could grab it if they know it's there, said Jay. But where exactly is that? Asked Mal, her forehead scrunching in dismay. Carlos took a closer look at the screen. As far as I could tell, it looks like it's right by the Isle of the Doomed. The water's murkier over there. And see those flashes of green in the water? That's goblin slime. Mal nodded. It was the same green color that seeped out of Maleficent's fortress. Those goblins would do anything to get their hands on that kind of treasure. Not to mention the pirates if they knew about it, said Jay. Magic mirror, is anyone else looking for the Triton? Asked Evie. This time, the mirror's surface glowed and showed villain after villain on the Isle of the Lost searching the surrounding waters for the Triton. Witches in scuba outfits, pirates diving off docks, hooligans of all kinds swarming the beaches and picking through seaweed, searching. Looks like everyone's looking for it. Word must have gotten out somehow that it's there, said Carlos. Goblins are terrible gossips, muttered Mal. The worst, agreed Evie. Jay only shrugged. He had no opinion on goblins other than that they were fun to steal from. It's still going, said Evie, as the mirror showed an image of a crowded tavern. What's that? Asked Jay, leaning over for a better look. Don't push, said Carlos, as they all crowded around Evie. It's Ursula's fish and chip shop, said Mal, as the mirror zoomed in more closely, until they could make out the blurry silhouette of a figure in the middle of the crowd. Who's that? Said Evie, catching sight of thick, ropey strands. I can't tell yet. One of the pirates, maybe? Said Carlos. The mirror kept focusing. It's a girl, said Jay decisively. Those are braids. That's not a girl. That's a sea witch, said Mal, tapping on the screen. It's Uma, said Jay. Uma, quaked Carlos. Uma, Evie sighed. Ugh, come on, it's Shrimpy, said Mal. It's always Shrimpy. She told Evie about her long, nasty history with Uma. You know Uma's mostly mad because you said she was too small to be in our gang, Jay reminded her. But she was too small to be in our gang, said Mal defensively. She's not that small, said Carlos. There was a height requirement? Mal just didn't want to share, said Jay with a grin. Mal shrugged, but Jay was right. She hadn't wanted Uma to be part of her crowd. She'd pushed her away, even though Uma was fiercer than Ginny Gothel and much scarier than Harriet Hook. The truth was, Uma was real competition, and Mal hadn't wanted any of that back then. Evie squinted at the picture of Uma in the magic mirror. Why do you hate her so much? Mal was taken aback. I don't hate her. Actually, since we've been in Ordon, I'd forgotten all about her. She's one who's always been obsessed with me. Carlos and Jay nodded. Uma loathes Mal, said Carlos. I mean, I get it. You dumped a bucket of shrimp on her head. You can't be her favorite person, said Evie. But it's also not any different from what people on the Isle do to each other every day. Couldn't she get over it? Mal smiled ruefully at the memory of that fateful day. I think it bothered her more because we were close once. Best friends, actually. But then she laughed at you, said Carlos, who had turned away from the magic mirror and had zipped open his backpack to get a head start on his homework. I was with my mom that day at the docks. I saw what happened. Uma laughed at you when you tripped and fell and slid down the dock. Yeah, I didn't like it, said Mal, eyes glazing at the memory. So I took my revenge. Her hair never smelled the same again. In fact, it smelled shrimpy, said Jay with a laugh. Evie shuddered, thinking of how terrible that would be. Yikes. I wasn't the nicest person back then, said Mal, frowning at the image in the magic mirror. You were only doing what you were taught, said Evie supportively. What we were all taught on the Isle. She picked up a piece of fruit from Jay's tray and took a bite, glad that it was fresh and not rotten like they were used to on the island. But how does she think she's going to find that Triton? She doesn't have a magic mirror at her disposal like we do, said Jay. Maybe everyone who's looking for it is working for her, guessed Evie. No, the goblins only work for themselves, said Mal. The only ones who could possibly be loyal to her are the pirates. A bunch of thieves and thugs, said Jay. Harry and Gil? You used to run with them, Carlos chided. Didn't you? I sure did, admitted Jay. That's how I know they're all a bunch of scoundrels. But if any of them found it, they'd definitely give it to Uma, said Mal. They always follow orders, especially Harry Hook. We don't have much time. King Triton will notice the Triton's missing by tomorrow, so we need to get it back tonight, said Evie. And Uma's after it, so you all know what that means. Mal stood up from the table, ready to take action. We need to find it before she does, said Evie. And hurry, added Carlos. Jay smiled. Here we go again.